guys, I wanted to do a Q&A, so I posted this on my Facebook. So I just have a couple questions here that I'm just going to cover real quick. So don't mind me looking down, I'm just looking at my computer over here. So Jordan Kirkman said, what do you find helps best for people who have a high metabolism and are trying to bulk up? So first of all, get those calories in. That is the number one thing. Number two is just make sure you're lifting heavy and progressively overloading, whether that be with one set, one extra rep per workout, extra 5 pounds, whatever it may be. Just make sure you're progressing over a period of time. As for the high metabolism, just get in calorically dense foods, whether that be eating more almond butter, oils, cooking with oils. Eat foods that are high in calories for the small amount of volume. So those calorically high dense foods are going to help you gain that weight, rather than eating a bunch of sweet potatoes and salads. You're not going to be gaining as much weight because those are high volume foods for low calories. Of course, we want the majority of our food to come from those wholesome foods, micronutrient dense foods, but at the same time we do want extra calories if our ultimate goal is to gain weight. What do you do if you miss a meal? While in a bulk or a surplus, don't freak out about it. If you are trying to gain weight and you happen to miss a meal, well, the next time you eat, just make sure that you make up for those calories. So Betty asked, surprisingly, I have one. How do you deal with situations of eating out and tracking macros when you're in a cut? I know you like beer. How do you deal with alcohol in that case? So, Betty, last summer I did a mini cut. I typically weigh a little bit over 180 pounds. I mini cut to 174, 175. So 2 to 3 times a month I would go out, drink beer, have a good time with my friends. And when I was in a deficit, what I would do is I'd make sure I'd eat the majority of my protein. So I'd have like 80 to 90% of my protein. I would make sure to get in a fruit, a vegetable, and I would drop my fats, so I'd only eat about half of my fats or 40% of my fats. So let's just say I was at 60 fats, I'd try to eat around 20 to 30 grams. Carbohydrates, let's just say they were at 300. I would eat in the range of 100 to 150. That way when I go out, I can use those calories, the 30 grams of fat and the 150 grams of carbs left, toward beer, alcohol, foods that I want to eat out. Then the next day, I would literally just jump right back onto my macros and everything would be fine. As far as alcohol tracking, I would just track it and look at caloric content versus trying to fit it into a macro. Jacob Huff said, what is your advice for someone who exercises 2 to 3 times a week, still having trouble losing the weight and wants to shed up to 10 pounds and has a college meal plan for food? I would suggest just having a little bit more activity. So the only way you can lose weight is if your calories expended are more than the calories you take in. So just be a little bit more mindful of doing an extra set, doing a little bit more weight when you're exercising, doing a little bit more cardio, maybe 5-10 minutes. I would also say if you're doing a college meal plan for food, it's really hard to track macros. But you can always get MyFitnessPal, which is an application for your phone, and you can estimate the food. Just be wary and cautious of those calorically dense foods that I mentioned before, such as peanut butter and oils, cream cheese, stuff like that, where 30 grams of it is equal to 150 calories. Just be cautious of those foods because those will get you in the long run. So So hopefully that helped answer your question, Jacob. Chase Rossman said, best exercise recommendations for outer quad and lat V-taper back development. I would say for outer quad, I don't really do anything that pinpoints like an outer quad or looking at the body as or pulling exercises as width versus thickness. So I would suggest just start focusing on increasing your squat. Squat's going to be huge. Your sumo deadlifts, leg extensions for the quads. Bulgarian split squats are a favorite of mine currently, and walking lunges. You see a lot of people who do like toes in, toes out when they're doing leg extensions, but I honestly think that the best thing is just to progress with whatever exercise you're doing that you enjoy, that you can adhere to, and one that you're going to progress with. As far as V-taper of back development, I would just say make sure that you're doing 2 pulling exercises that are rowing, horizontally rowing, and make sure you're doing at least 2 pulling exercises that are vertical pull downs. James Custer said, where do you come out on the maximal recoverable volume versus minimal effort effective dosage debate as far as strength gains go? Do you feel you get stronger doing more volume or greater intensity, fewer sets? I am very taxed by higher percentages. So when I look at, let's just say I'm doing 90% on my squat, I use a chart, it's called a relative intensity chart, and I can break it down and see, okay, if I'm doing 2 sets of 2 at 90%, that's 4 total reps. That'll put, even though it's 90% of my 1 rep max, my relative intensity might be 98%. And that's not an optimal way to train in a consistent, regular basis. As far as strength gains go, when you increase your percentage or intensity, I would decrease your volume. And it also just depends on the lift as well. I recover very quickly from bench press. I recover, it takes me a couple days for squat, and then deadlift, it literally takes me a week for my CNS to start to feel like I'm able to lift that much weight again. How I feel about getting strength doing more volume versus greater intensity. I actually had ran Matt Ogus's 753 program where you're working at a very low percentage, but you're doing a lot of sets, a lot of volume. And so you do 1, 2, 3 weeks of training, a deload week, and then that 5th week you're doing a top set. And after doing it 1 cycle through, I was as strong as I've ever been. So I personally like higher volume. As far as greater intensity, I try to stay away from it just because since I am a bodybuilder, I don't like it to affect my other areas of training such as my back, biceps, triceps, pushing exercises and whatnot. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching the Q&A. There'll be plenty more to come.